So, we're going to talk about the human team. Humans are sort of a jack of all trades, master of none style team. They're very, very easy to play. They're one of the best teams for a beginner because they have all the skills that are needed to take part in a game. They've got a lot of block, they've got a lot of to have a lot of different skills. They've got catchers who are really quick and have catch, obviously. Nice, because that means you can reroll a missed catch. Let's just create a little sample team. Fun. So auto blah blah blah. Game already used. I forgot. Why are people using? Oh. So the humans have 5 pieces. They have an ogre, who is a big guy. You can only have one of them. These are pretty good big guys, actually. They're one of the better ones. They have the bonehead negative trait, which means if they roll a 1, they can't do anything. They just stand there being...
Okay, but is it worth using a reroll on them?
No,
Or is
never. They
is
also
it
have
too risky?
they also have a negative trait called loner, which all big guys have, except for the mummies and tomb guardians for Khemri and undead. And that means if you use a reroll with that player, you have to do a 4+ roll, so 50% chance. And if you fail it, you waste the reroll and you can't use it. So in general, it's not worth rerolling on big guys, which is another one of the risks taking them. But a human team sort of needs its big guy. They need your ogre to give you some strength, because otherwise you're a bit weak.
So you'd say it's like a must-have auto-include kind of deal.
I've seen builds that don't run it, but I always run a ogre in my human team. It's just nice to have that bit of beef on the line.
Okay.
Their best players are their blitzers, and they can have 4 blitzers, which is really nice. These are fast players, and they all start with block, and block is the best skill in the game. It's really good for keeping your players safe, it's really good for knocking people down, it's really good at, you can use them as ball carriers as well, because they're just that much less likely to get knocked down because they have block. You should always start with 4 of them, there's no reason really not to.
So like when you level your blitzer, since it already has block, like what would you take on it? Mighty blow or?
Mighty Blow's really good. Guard. Humans, because they only have one above average strength player, Guard is really good for humans. Because you can quite quickly get a strength advantage over your opponent. And that's very important. Humans are one of the bashiest teams early because they start off with so much block. It's like a misconception that you aren't bashy, and when you're playing in like an open ladder with some newer players or something, you'll often find people complaining about like how they've picked lizard men and are getting out bashed by humans, but early in the game they have 4 block pieces. It's very, very strong. The next player is
Okay.
the thrower, and he is your ball carrier for most of the time because he has sure hands. And what sure hands does is it allows you to re-roll if you fail to pick up the ball. And because humans are only agility 3, they often fail to pick up the ball. He also has the pass skill, which means he gets to re-roll a failed pass, which gives the humans some ability to move the ball downfield quite quickly. And that's where their next player comes in, the catcher. You can have 4 of these guys as well, which is it's a rare build. Usually you start with 1 thrower and 1 catcher, because you level up your catcher quite quickly. Catchers are also strength 2, which means that they can't really fight anyone. Nearly every player in the game will get a 2-die block against your catcher, which will definitely hurt him eventually. They're armor value 8 though, so they're actually one of the hardest to kill players of movement 8. The other one being the werewolf for the necromantic team. Just about every other movement 8 piece in the game has armor 7, which is significantly easier to break than armor 8 just because of the way dice work. You know, there's so many combinations on 2d6 that will add up to 7 plus, but there's not that as many that add up to 8 plus. The catcher starts with dodge and catch, so he only gets knocked down on a POW or a both down, assuming the other player has block. Won't get knocked down on the defender stumbles, which is the POW with the exclamation mark. And he has catch, so he can re-roll his attempts to catch, which is kind of nice because agility 3 isn't the best at catching either. The upgrade path of catchers is kind of variable. You can get block on them if block's really good, because then you can only ever knock them down on a 6, basically the POW. Which means that you can use them as ball carriers, they're much more safe. You can get Nerves of Steel on them, which means that they ignore tackle zones when it comes to catching the ball, so you can run them in, and it doesn't matter how many players your opponent puts around them, that you can always catch the ball.
So even though they have the armor value 8, they're still strength 2, and like you said, you only really bring one of them. Is that like exploitable when you're playing against a bashy team? Is it to maybe take out the catcher?
Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely what you want to do. It's similar to like playing against skinks or gutter runners. You want to kill those players because they're the dangerous ones. Those are the ones that are likely to score against you. But the thing with the human team is that they have 4 movement 7 blitzers as well. So you kill the catcher, yeah, that's good. But you still got 4 movement 7 pieces against you. And in general, you only start with 1 catcher, but you'll buy a second one quite quickly. Because they level up so fast that it's actually worth like holding off on buying them, because you can level them up. It's not unusual to level your catcher from level 1 to level 2 in one game, because they are very easy to score with.
Okay.
And
Sounds good.
they have standard linemen, nothing special there. You just fill out your team with them, and you're good to go. So if we just like create a quick team. Oh, misclicked. 4 alignment. Perfect. That leaves you 170, which is great because you can start with 3 rerolls. Done. And this is really what most human teams will look like when they start. This is what I consider to be the best. You can get rid of one of the linemen and start with a second catcher if you want. A lot of people do that. I don't like that personally, because I like having the extra lineman just because he's expendable.
And your first purchase after this is going to be like an apothecary then?
Yeah, first purchase would be an Apo, and then probably the purchase after that would be a second catcher, depending on what happens to this guy.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool, and that's pretty much the humans. That's what their pieces do. That's how a team should look, in my opinion.
So if I'm playing against the humans as a bashy team, what am I looking to do? Do I try to take out the catcher? Do I put my block guys on their blitzers, or?
Early on in the game, it's very difficult to play against humans as a bashy team, because generally the bashier teams, so your Nurgles, your Chaos, your Khemris, Necromantic to some extent can do it, Undead as well. Those are your sort of typical bashy teams. The Dwarves and Chaos Dwarves are slightly different because they all start with block anyway, and same with Norse. But traditional bashy teams like Nurgle and Chaos really struggle with humans early on, because they just don't. Humans have skills to handle every situation in the game. They've got a guy who can reliably pick up the ball in the thrower, they've got a guy who can reliably score in the catcher, and they've got 4 guys who can reliably knock their pieces down in the 4 blitzers. When you're playing against them, you want to try and minimize the number of blocks that their blitzers can get against you, because in general those players will beat down your guys. So say you're playing Chaos, you don't want to be putting your Beastmen next to the blitzers every turn, because it's actually very, very safe for a blitzer to form a 1 dice block against a Beastman, because they will only fail on a 1. you know, and they will knock you down on just about every other result. There are 3 results on the blocking dice that will knock your beastman down, and only 1 that will knock the blitzer down. So it's actually a very safe block. And that's how the blitzers sort of have to function on the human team, which is they have to put themselves in dangerous situations where they might have to do a 1 dice block. Similar to how you would if you're playing a Norse team.
So they're really good early. So
they're very good early. Humans are good at all stages. They're all armor 8, which is a big thing. It's one of the huge advantages about the catcher is the armor 8. Which means that they are a lot more durable than... Because this stat line is like the same as a skink. You know? It's the same as a skink, but it has catch and it's got armor 8. And it doesn't have stunty. So, you know, they're much more durable than a skink. The only difference between this and a gutter runner is agility 3, but again, the extra point in armor means that gutter runners die so quickly. Catchers can die too. I mean, catchers will often get fouled because they're quite scary pieces.
Yeah, so it might be worth potentially throwing a foul just to...
Oh, absolutely.
The threat from human catchers.
Yep, and the throwers as well. These throwers and catchers, I would say, are definitely the pieces you want to be fouling if you're playing against a human team in a tournament. Because those are the ones they rely on. The thrower is the one who can reliably pick up the ball, and the catcher is the one who can reliably score. You start with 3 rerolls because you only have agility 3. It's just nice to start with 3 rerolls on agility 3 teams because if you need to pick up the ball with a blitzer or a lineman, and they obviously don't have sure hands, so they don't get a free run. And it's quite nice to have a few extra rerolls to throw away. When you're playing as the humans, the basic strategy is sort of pick up the ball with the thrower, protect him with your blitzers and your linemen, and try and get the catcher downfield. The ogre is basically there to take out the enemy big guy if you can, or to try and injure the strength 4 pieces. So one of the typical matchups just about every tutorial game will be is orcs versus humans. Now, if you can put an ogre up against a black orc, he has a strength advantage and mighty blow, so he stands a good chance of, well, first of all, knocking the black orc down, second of all, injuring the guy. Which is really useful. And that about covers it for the humans.
Okay.
Awesome. So let's go back. Create a new one.